All right. Hello. Good evening, almost, I guess. Kids are out of the house. I'm home alone for a few minutes. Even got myself a tiny bear. My mother has been visiting, and then we all got sick. I actually think we got corona, though tested negative. But it's, feeling better today. But that's sad. Like, my mother visits like 4 times a year, and then this shit. Anyways, as long as I'm not as sick that I can't code and think about code, then I'm pretty much okay. Of course, helping out with the kids as well. But yeah, we were playing around with like we had a session internally at CodeSandbox about exploring state machines in CodeSandbox Projects. And we have this like initial idea, or like a few lines of code called React states, which has been like, we've been pulling and stretching and figuring out how to use it and stuff. And now it's coming together. And the important thing is to, like, the message needs to be clear about how you can use it and how it benefits. And I think we've gotten pretty close, because the core concept is the explicit states reducer. It's just a different kind of reducer where you guard all the actions and any side effects related to state changes. Ja. Hva det? Nei, jeg holder på å streame igjen, Emma. Mamma hjelper dem det. Well, that was 1 minute alone. Oh, god damn it. Anyways, so one thing I wanted to do with documentation before we continue on, like, there are 2 projects that's using this and related to CodeSandbox projects, and that is our internal Excalibur Firebase tool. And I also have this app I built for like the family that's also using it, which I'm also refactoring now. But I won't stream that really. I'll rather stream the Excalibur thing. But the point is that I want the documentation to be even more explicit. So this is the core. And this other stuff is optional. And then if we go to the API, I don't quite like how this looks. Yeah, I have this plugin thing that creates the table of contents automatically. I actually don't like it. But what I want to do, I want to say core. This is the core. Should we have... Yeah, I just want to do it like this. So we have core, which is create reducer. And then we have environment, which is this define environment thing. So what you have in the core is these hooks. So this makes it more clear. Like, what's the core functionality of React states? And it's basically create reducer. And then you have these hooks for dealing with state transitions and these commands. And you also have match. That's also core. And then we have, it's this thing called render reducer. We're going to change this because now it's related to a pattern of like context providers, but I don't want it to be tied to that. So I'm actually going to fix that. So let's just call it testing for now. Testing. And then, so we do testing. And we have render reducer for now. And then we have these type utilities. I'll make sure to uninstall that freaking plugin. Then we have DevTools. with the DevTools provider and use DevTools. Yes. So I think maybe we can even do this, even though like these are like utilities coming from this. I don't think we have to emphasize that in the yes. So even though like there is a header here of factories, let's call it core, we don't need all this stuff. Sorry to spend the stream on this, but yeah, maybe I can rather fix this later. I just wanted to highlight that this is the core of React states. And then adding the environment is optional. I can even highlight that here, optional. Which just, and the thing is like, this environment approach is only made possible because you have this core. Yes. Anyways, I'll clean this up later. Update docs. Cool. So what we were actually doing is that we were looking at this thing, Excalibur Firebase, and we were here. We were making some changes. Let's open it in VS Code. Yeah, I have to reload the window here. Yeah, and actually, yeah. So what we were doing is that we were, let's grab a terminal here. How do I get to terminal? Terminal. So let's add the latest version of React states. And we, in the main file here, I believe we, yeah. So I believe I fixed all of this. So now the action is optional in states, and it's actually called states reducer now. Yeah. Always on filter action is on, where behavioral component different versions logging actions. I figured out this bug, so that's fixed. I haven't looked at the strict mode stuff, where like React reruns reducers and use effects to validate like determinism, I think. Which I find a little bit weird with use effect, because that is like, that can be anything. Like you're running animations and crazy stuff there. So I don't quite understand strict mode with use effect. But yeah, I haven't dived into it. And then, yeah, so we have a couple of things that we need to fix, but this should be fixed. Anyways, so let's use state reducer here instead. And the thing is like, this is also tricky. It's not, yeah, let's see if this works. That didn't work. I didn't test this very well, did I? Dispatch any. Type dispatch never is not assignable to dispatch any. Okay, so we have a bug there. I have to fix that. No matter. The thing is like, the type you return here is not really the reducer function itself. It's actually the return type of the hook. But it doesn't really have a name. Like when you use reducer and you have like the array, the tuple thingy, it doesn't really have a name. So, but I think it's better to just name it reducer than something that doesn't like make any sense, like states. So yeah, I'm doing that for now. We'll see how it turns out. Let's do the same here. Oh yeah, this had, here we go, states reducer. Cool. Navigation, states reducer. That's basically the only thing that changed. I believe. Oh yeah, it's just because. Oh yeah, auth. Oh. Like that. Yeah, so now these are good. Navigation, recording, same here. Yeah, so the intention of this stream is to start refactoring these features. They shouldn't be features. They should just be part of the component tree. And I actually started this on this other app I talked about. It's called Family Scrum. And yeah, I'll show it to you, but not now. And it will be a reference project, so you can take a look when it's updated. But it feels so much more natural to not go ahead with these features. It's such a premature. I guess it's because I've been in this framework mode with other open source projects, and now it was supposed to be just a tool, and then like my experience kind of drags me into framework world. And maybe we could just start. Well, let's see if it actually runs now. Yeah. So now it runs, and these ones should be better now. Oh, I thought this should be on by default. That's weird. Oh, and then maybe that should be shared as well. Like if you first start filtering, you should filter it on all of them. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, now these actually behave the way they should behave, which is great. Cool. So let's continue the refactor. So kind of the final thing here is that we don't want these features. We want this to be just part of the component tree. So if we take a look at how auth is used first, and this is actually not that straightforward to refactor from experience of the other app, but we'll get there. Okay, so here we have auth, and that's actually being exposed as a provider here, but we don't actually need that. Let's just remove that. Oops. And what we're going to do instead is that we're going to in the index file, this is where we do the auth. So we are just going to make it part of this. So that means, let's see, we have index. How big is auth? Could we shove it all into one thing? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we are going to copy everything. Let's just remove the stuff we don't want. We don't want this context provider. But we do want the rest of this stuff. Like that. And let's take this stuff. Okay, let's see. So in the index page, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. What was the initial state? Was that... Oh, god damn it. What was the initial state? Checking authentication. Okay. We're just going to do that now. Yeah, let's first make sure this actually works. So we have the environment interface. Blah, blah, blah. State is checking authentication. So we have to, so what I'm going to do is, in terms of testability, I'm not sure how much value it gives you to just test the reducer itself. Because what you want to do, you want to test the reducer related to the effects being run. Like we could have unit tests for like, okay, in this state, I pass this action, I expect it to move to this state. But that's, for me, that is re-implementing the reducer. The reducer is almost like a unit test in itself. It's like, in this state, handles its action, move to this state. It's so straightforward that having unit tests for that, I don't think it gives that much value. What gives value, though, is to actually load up this component and start testing it. Let's call auth here. And let's call this reduce, well, not reducer, but well, let's call this auth. Or authentic, okay, let's call it auth. And then we have auth state and dispatch auth. Yes. So we could move this reducer into its own file, but it's not that big, so we'll just keep it in here for now. But yeah, so what I want to explore is testing the actual app. So you load in the whole freaking app, and then you start running stuff. So you don't just validate that these effects are being run, talking to the environment. It's like, it's more of a, that's the interesting thing with this environment interface. It becomes like a mix of unit and integration test, because none of the logic inside the application itself, the components, accesses any side effect other than the environment, which we can run synchronously, which is really interesting. Like, of course, you might have effects related to animations and stuff, and I'm not sure how testable that is in itself. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to write synchronous tests where you actually also check the UI, like what's rendering in the UI. Anyways, yeah, and that's also a thing, like how would we ensure the initial state here in those kinds of tests? Like, I haven't thought this through yet. Because like in the previous pattern, you could always pass like the initial state to the provider, and then you could like test the provider. But here you don't really have a mechanism of changing this initial state. So I guess you would kind of have to kind of move it to the correct state. Maybe that's not a big deal. Anyways, that's something to explore. Yeah, so now we have the authentication inside the index page. And maybe we could, how does this, is this Next.js? I can't remember. Oh, this is Firebase and Vite, yeah. So we could have pages, and then we could have, like, we could have reducers as a folder. And some people also like use features, and then they kind of mix like auth is components, and yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. My goal here was to not have features. I wasn't thinking. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, let's take this first step. We'll just shove it in with the components first, and then we'll take a look at how we want to deal with it after that. So that was auth, and that was pretty straightforward. Like, why the hell have this feature called auth when it's just part of the main page? So we're passing in off to like the dashboard page and everything. So maybe the next thing we could look at is dashboard. So here we also have like a pretty small thing. So let's find the dashboard page. Index, what's index? Share dashboard, user dashboard. Yeah, this is just use. Oh, okay. So we have share dashboard, which is actually, what's dashboard then? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, because dashboard might take, yeah, it just takes Excalibur rows, while here we are deciding if it's like everyone's or just you as a user. So we need both of these. Yeah, we should probably split this up into 2 different files now. Let's do that. Okay, so shared dashboard and new file user dashboard. Oh, sorry. Rename user dash. What the hell? Hey, user dashboard tsx. Share dashboard. And then user dashboard. And we're not going to use, let's see. So again, we're just going to like use the thing. There's no context or anything like that. Remove the context and then we'll copy this into the share dashboard, where this stuff is part of the thingy. And yeah, what was the initial state? The initial state was, oh god damn it, loading previews. And match, we need to grab the match. And we don't create a context anymore. And here we go and grab the dashboard. Okay, so again, we just have everything shoved into this. Yeah, and this is also nice. Like now we don't, yeah, maybe we should just fix that as well. Now we can just say state here. Let's do the same for the index. I don't think we actually need this split of the, yeah, exactly. That's only necessary for, what's it called? Context provider. The reason this fails is because we don't have the right typing there yet. We're going to fix that. Cool. Share dashboard, that's how you look. Cool. And then we'll do the same for the user dashboard. Feature. Let's move you out. This is also like loading previews. This is interesting because I think these are actually the same, which is interesting. So no create context here. Initial state was state loading previews. So let's move all this stuff in here. We don't do that anymore. We do this. And we can say state dispatch here. And what we might see here is that this is actually the same. This is actually the same reducer, which might lead us to actually reusing the thing. We'll see. Which is interesting. Like we could put the whole thing in a hook. Anyway, so there we have type action. Yeah, now we're calling it feature. We should change that to what was this? User dashboard reducer. And then same here. Share dashboard reducer. And were they the same? Does it like fetch previous success? It's the same. Yeah, it's different events. Yeah, we don't really know if they might have differences. So this is where I would typically just, even though they are more similar than dissimilar, I would still keep them separate because they might have other differences in the future. Okay, so we have user dashboard and share dashboard. So we do that instead. No more features. We can remove a ton of stuff here. Yes. This is starting to look good. So now we don't need dashboard or user dashboard or auth. I do have tests there, so maybe we should take a look at them. Yeah, let's just keep them. And then we'll take a look at tests later. Let's see. Okay, so let's do the same with navigation. It's also pretty straightforward. Let's do... Oh yeah, and it's doing navigate. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's just make a copy of this. So that was navigation, which actually happened here. So let's just shove it in here for now, and then we'll see how it looks. And the initial state here was all Excali draws, I believe. So this is like state, like what's it called? State first routing. Or was I using React Router here? Yeah, I think I was. But no matter, it's state first routing. Because I can't remember. Navigation. Yeah. Yeah, we're just navigating using state. And this should rather now be history push. Oh yeah, we're just using the history API. Yeah, sorry. Route match, is this? What's this route match thing? I can't remember what I use there. Is this coming from? Oh, I am using React Router. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, so this is the thing. Like we're grabbing auth feature from the wrong place. Let's see. Let's just fix this. Was it auth reducer? I forgot to rename that. Import type auth reducer. This should be history push. History push. And like the tricky thing about, I don't quite, okay, so I'm using React Router. Yeah, I'm wondering why I'm, yeah, I really should use route match. I should really put this into the environment, because that's also nice. We don't have to, like, the URL is now a side effect of changing the state. You see that? First we move into different pages using state, and then we update the URL based on that. And the nice thing about that is it gives more flexibility in manipulating the URL, but it also simplifies testing. Because now we can put the history API, we can put that inside the environment interface. So when we're writing tests, we don't have to care about any specific React Router approaches to doing it. We just have to check if push was called with these parameters. And we don't even have to do that. We can actually expose a specific API for moving to these different URLs. So we don't have any magical strings in there. So let's do that after we're done with this thing. So we don't need a navigation feature anymore. We just have navigation. And we have and match here. What's that using? Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, so we shouldn't actually do it like this. Yeah, this is interesting. Let's dive into this right away. So this shows you how the power of the environment interface. So what we're going to do first, we're going to go and visit the interface, and we're going to add, we could call it navigation, for example, navigation. And then we export an interface of navigation, and we want to be explicit here. We want to navigate to different pages. So, and we can express that any way we want. We could have a single go to, for example, and then we can type the different pages you can go to. Or we can be even more explicit and say go to all Excali draws, for example. All, what different kinds of things do we want to do? Use reducer navigation. We have all Excali draws user. Yeah, it's basically those two. And I guess later we'll also add like go to a specific one. So let's explore just open all Excali draws. Sorry, this should be, well, I guess we don't want to say like open in the sense that, because we're just setting the URL. Like one thing is if we change the URL, and as a side effect of the URL changing, we would like update the state. But here we're doing the opposite. We're just updating the state, and the what's in the URL address bar is just a side effect of moving to a new page. Which might sound silly, but if you think about it, like the application can run in different environments, and when it runs in the browser, you have this URL, and it's really it's really, how should I put it? You can think of it as just a reference to the state you're in the app. The thing is that you also want to change the URL, and then you want to move back into the... Yeah, I guess that's the thing. Like, that's the thing I don't think about here. It's when you do use history, you would actually... it will actually re-render when it changes history. But what's interesting about that, which we have a huge pain with in CodeSandbox Projects, is that we do a lot of query manipulation, and it does a ton of reconciliation. You can imagine every time you change the code, you change your selection, which changes the query param, which causes reconciliation in your components because the router is component based. But okay, no matter, we're just going to explore this for fun's sake. And so we are going to export navigation event. So we're also going to listen to changes to navigation, and we're going to emit an event on that. And that will allow the reducer to change the page. So we're going to say open user xgalley draws, and this has a user ID. Or it should really be, yeah, this is the thing that makes me a little bit, yeah, okay, we're going to flip it around. So here we are actually pushing history as we are, oh, wait a minute, no, sorry, yeah. So we move to all xgalley draws and we push this path. And then, yeah, this is confusing to me. Oh, sorry, no, yeah. No, of course. We're moving into user xgalley draws, and as a side effect of that, we change the URL. Though you could argue that, yeah, exactly. This is interesting. What happens first? Do we ask the environment to navigate, and then it will emit an event whenever it changes the URL, which then changes the reducer to the correct page? Or do we change the correct page in the reducer, and as a side effect it changes the URL? I think, yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Because what are you actually doing when you do when you click that link to the user dashboard? Do you actually ask the environment to change page, or do you ask the app to change page? Like, this is very conceptual, but it's this is the kind of stuff I can get stuck in. Or it's more of a decision, I guess, but so in terms of updating a query param, it's more then you just update the URL, right? You don't really think about that as navigating to the query change, like the URL with the query change, and then like the app adjusts to that. You just set the new state, like I mentioned, the selections. So you change your code, it updates the selection query in the URL, and that's a side effect of changing the code. You're not like navigating to the new URL. But you could argue if you move to a different page, that's something you ask the browser to do first, and then as a side effect of that, your app will change its state. But do we actually want to treat those as two different things? Would it make sense that in an environment agnostic app, navigation reference is just a side effect? So you always do, you always change the state of the app first, and then it's just a side effect, updating the address bar. Oh, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. By the way, I got a message from the... Hei. Ja, jeg kan godt gjøre det.
Ja, for jeg går, jeg spaserer, og vi skal ikke kjøre meg.
Ok.
Nei, for nå er ungene ute, og vi har det så fint.
Ja, ja.
Så bare jeg har det fint, så...
Sorry, just my mother leaving. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to treat the address bar as just a side effect of changing the internal state of the application. Which is interesting. This goes all the way back to like Cerebral days. Cerebral actually had a router that could tie itself into state. So if you had like a page state, you could tie that into the URL. So whenever you change that page state, it would automatically reflect it in the URL. And that's something that's fascinating to me, because yes, we do build applications for the browser, but it's like, how should I put this? It doesn't necessarily put us on the right path of writing code. When we kind of embrace the fact that the application is running in the browser, just using the APIs directly. In this case, we're talking about like navigating first and then reacting to that navigation change, instead of just making the necessary state changes inside the application, and then you rather update the URL as a reference to where you are in your state now. Yeah, I'm not saying that's much better, but it's interesting. It's an interesting discussion. And we're going to explore that alternative now. So instead of saying open all Excalibur, like that's the thing. Do I really want this to be? Do I really want this to be? Now my brain is going. Now I'm like, oh, maybe we can make this like a first class concept, blah, blah, blah. Because what I don't like about it is What? Yeah. Oh my god, I can't believe this. I'm getting stuck on this. I can't decide how I want to approach it. Like, one thing is just moving this into the environment interface to make it testable. But just the fact what I'm doing here, that I'm updating the state of the application first and then updating the URL as a side effect. It's kind of, if you were to, that's the thing, like if you were to use, like what if you forgot, what if you added like a new page and you wanted that to be a URL reference and you forgot to create the state effect? That's not, like that's bad, like that's bad code. And if you were to rather navigate first, and then this navigation interface would emit an event every time it changed URL, and then you actually change the page based on that. That would be better. Which means that you wouldn't actually make these things side effects. They would actually, yeah, and maybe that's why I did it like this, because it's an old version of the API. Okay, so we are going to, I've made up my mind. I made up my mind. Open Excalidraw, and I think this is user ID string and Excalidraw ID string. I can't remember. I think it's both. So what we're going to do is that we're going to say navigation updated, and then since we only have we can call it page. So we have a page type all Excalidraws. We have we can call it name. Name user Excalidraws, which is tied to a user ID. And then name Excalidraw, which has a user ID and an Excalidraw ID. So we say that every time we update URL, we will emit this event. And then the reducer will change its state related to that, which means that we don't actually want to do this thing. What we're going to do is, let's see, maybe we should implement this first. So we have navigation, and we have the navigation event like that, and then we can implement it. First in the browser, export const, create navigation, which would be navigation event. And here we so open all Excalidraws. Oh, I shouldn't be drinking beer now. So let's import history from React Router. Kind of silly that I'm using React Router for this. I could just use the... Isn't there like a... Don't you have a direct history reference in React Router? Do you only have use history? Doesn't React Router depend on... I thought it depended on this other package called history. Yes, it does. So let's do that. Let's rather let's not have React Router. You see this? And then you have to have React Router DOM and all this stuff. We don't really need this. We can just add history. This is going to be interesting. And then we'll import history from history. And then we should be able to just say history. Isn't it like push or something? Oh, create browser history. Interesting. Okay, so let's do that when we initialize this thing. Sorry about that, going back and forward here. Browser history. Options. I guess we don't need any options. So we say browser history push, like that. And then we have open user excalidraws with the user ID. And that was, what was it? Yeah, it was just a user ID. Like that. And then we have open excalidraw, which I can't quite remember. So what we're going to do here, we're actually going to emit, when we make that change, we're going to emit that we updated the navigation. And we went to all excalidraws in this case. And in this case, we changed to name, user excalidraws, user ID. Yes, so now we're tying it together. We're updating the URL. Yeah, maybe we should do listen. Okay, now I'm really diving into it. Yeah, this is how it should work. We shouldn't do this. We should do, sorry. Okay, action. The action that triggered the change. Oh, this is interesting. Location, but wasn't there like a history.parse path? Okay. Event.location. Interesting. Okay. So what we rather do, we rather based on the how do we do this? Parse path. I wonder where that match query comes from. Use route match. Is that coming from a different package? Oh, that was weird. Oh yeah, because I deleted it, I guess. Yeah, this is interesting. Oh, we're so diverging from what we were doing. But so what I want to do is that I want to parse the path. Kind of like what we're doing here. I want to match, use route match. We could use regexp. So the point is, like, if you would do get page or something. Oh, what the hell? So you would have like get page, which would return a page. I don't think I actually export that. So give it a path, and then you would say if path equal, you return name all excaliburs. But the thing is like, or you could, the thing is like, how do you test on, yeah, I wonder if there's like a URL path matcher. URL matcher. Yeah, exactly. But it's like doing all that stuff just to do that's the thing. Like it's too tricky to like, even though this is interesting, and I think it's a better way to deal with routing, because I don't like nested intertwined components that has this magical ability to talk to the browser API to do navigation. I think it's much more natural to make the different pages like first class state. It's like it's state of the application. You just change that state, and then that will like be reflected in the URL. Because what's interesting about this is if you were to load this app inside React Native, you could now implement navigation for React Native. And you would just have this interface of open all excaliburs, open user excaliburs, and so on. And there you might even do, like, I think React Native has its own like page concept. So you could even like trigger that stuff. And then when you're testing, you just fire off, you just emit that the URL was actually changed. But yeah, we would need to match this more efficiently. But I don't really have time for that now. Ah, god damn it. Why did I get stuck in this? We weren't supposed to do this now. Oh, it's so typical. So typical. Oh, this shouldn't be history. This should just be emit. Yeah, so we would like give this the location path, and then you would get the page back. And we could do like if path match. What would that be? Like something like this, and then it's the end, something like that. Then it would be user excalibur. Like, what the hell is the actual URL for an excalibur? I can't remember. I have to check that. But it's so low level. That's what I don't quite like about it. That's what I don't quite like about it. Let me just check Excalibur. I can't remember. Let's look at something. Prepping a stream for CSP. Oh yeah, so it's two parts to it. Yeah, so you have the user and then you have the Excalibur, right? So we could, I think this is the matcher for, oh, it shouldn't be like this, it should be like this. I think this is the online regex. Let's just do it manually for now, because we have to do something. So foo, one match, var, this should be like, oh yeah, and then like not no match, no file. God damn. I'm no regex master. How does this thing work? Isn't that like end of line? Well, of course we could do this. Yeah, so it matches that one, but it shouldn't match that one. Oh, why does it match that one? What the hell? Plus, no match. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it's the plus thingy. Yeah. Okay, so that's matching that one, and then yeah, so we can do that just to get it done. So this is matching return name. Yeah, and then we kind of have to extract. How does it foo bar match? Yeah, and we have to capture these. And of course one of them captures the. That's so annoying. I don't quite understand why that happens. I'm pretty explicit here not to capture the first. Oh, is that? Oh, sorry. There we go. It should be like that. Okay, so you have group 1. Yeah. Oh god damn it. I can't stay on for much longer. Sorry to die down this path. There is probably like we should just use URL matcher. And then match pattern. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, yarn add URL matcher. Well, we have to try it. Import URL matcher from URL matcher. Does it have type support? Of course it doesn't. God damn it. Type URL matcher. Is it popular? No, that wasn't very popular. Yarn add types URL matcher. Jag kommer. Okay, my time's up. And I don't even have types. That sucks. I can't live without types. There's probably some other library that can do this. Yeah, and we'll do that. Well, just to prove the concept. Next time we're going to continue this, and we are going to do it like this. Yes. Oh, this is sad because this was really nice. Oh, then that was the other one. URL pattern. Oh, this was a popular one. Oh, yeah, and you could even like create it. Ooh, I like this one. And because you can just create, this is like a page. Does that have TypeScript? Ooh, maybe this is my new favorite. Because now you can say, let's see, pages, all Excali draws would be new. Oh, that's a namespace. Ah. Oh, you can do this. Oh. And we would say like this. User Excali draws would be user ID. Maybe I can give it some typing as well. Can I do that? No. And then Excali draw. New URL pattern. This is interesting. And this is very explicit now, but pages match path. Yeah, this is interesting. Like, this can be improved a ton. So you would, oh, this is interesting. Oh, yeah, so you could like have the page state. Yeah, this is interesting. You could have the page state with pattern, and then you can just go through them, and if it matches it, yeah, that's, oh, that's cool. Okay, we're going to finish that next time. So I'm going to make this an array instead, which has the URL pattern and the page state related to that URL pattern. And then this logic here will just go and find the page that you're on. And if it finds it, it's going to emit it. If it doesn't find it, it can emit like a wrong URL kind of navigation event. That's going to be interesting. And then we'll kind of have a proof of, not a proof of concept, but we have an example of how you can do state first routing. I'm perfectly fine with like using React Router, but I don't like the fact that you enforce like an environment into your code, because it makes testing harder and yeah, all that stuff. Cool. Thanks for following along. I'm going away for a few days, so I won't be streaming until next week. But yeah, then I'll do some more of this streaming, and also Gianmarco and me will work on the PR edit thing, which is a proof of concept for something that might pop up in CodeSandbox projects. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, have a great Easter celebration if you do that kind of stuff, or have a great weekend, and we'll talk later.